All right, you guys have seen us use this before. This is a 40.98 ream, which is what you're going to use for a BB86, or in this case, BB92. I believe this should be industry practice, personally. I mean, if you're a bike shop, you know, and you've been around for a while, like a long while, and you got a bunch of, you know, gray hairs in there, chances are you've already got one of these, and you're already doing this sort of thing. You know, there's a school of thought. Oh, real quick, before I go on to my diatribe there. When you're doing carbon, when you're using this for carbon, don't put a lot of load on it, because you don't want this cutter to feed very rapidly. We want it to be able to dwell for a little while. So I just barely put pressure on it, like that, and I'm going to screw this down just very slightly. What this does is put a little bit of spring pressure on it, because I don't want to draw this in too quickly. If I compress this spring, what it's going to do is it's going to make this want to shoot in there very rapidly, and the cutters are not going to have time on the contact surface to cut. Because remember, this isn't aluminum, so the cutting procedure for this one is a little bit different. Now I can already tell that I'm cutting quite a bit. And once again, this is 40.98. So as long as you just cut it until it bottoms, it'll be perfect. So while I'm doing that, may I continue? So if you're not doing this, especially with BB92 and BB86, I gotta say press fit 30, not really generally necessary. BB30, I would say almost never. It's really BB86 and BB92 that seem to be the ones that are giving everybody a lot of grief these days, as far as having a little issue with the internal dimensions here. So as you can see, I'm taking this very progressively. I'm not just spinning it in there and it's not drawing in rapidly. I'm just taking my time, cutting it just like that. All right, I'm almost done now, and I should have said this at the beginning. You notice that I didn't use any lubricant on here. Don't. It doesn't need it. I'm doing carbon fiber. All right, now all I do is I have a bottoming a bottoming plate right here. This tool also, you'll typically see it with a facing cutter. I have it around here somewhere. Don't use that, because you don't want to cut, or you don't want to face at all on this. Okay, you do not want to reduce this dimension. That would be very bad. What you want to do is you just want to ream the inside. As I'm doing this side, let me just tell you guys, the reason why this is so critical, especially with BB86 and BB92, is because it's already a 41 millimeter hole, and let's just say if I'm putting a Shimano bottom bracket in here, or GXP, typically you're going to use a 37 millimeter OD bearing, 6805, something like that. So it actually has quite a bit of structure left, you know, 41 minus 37. But when you're putting in a dub crank or a 30 millimeter spindle, you're going to be putting in a bearing that has a 40 millimeter OD. So that leaves you a ½ millimeter of thickness of the actual like sleeve that's going in around where the bearing is pressed into the sleeve, if that makes sense. So you can tell there's not a lot of hedge for really tight frames and things like that. So they're always going to have a lot of influence on the final outcome of how the bearings perform. So if you have something that is really undersized, like this one is super undersized, okay, what it's going to do is it's going to make the bearing not run very well, because it's going to have a lot of radial compression, because there's no structure of the bottom bracket itself, the module, to resist that compression. And the result's going to be an overcompressed bearing that doesn't spin very well. So when we get this to the exact dimension it's supposed to be, 40.98, giving us a nice 0.02 interference fit with our 41 millimeter outer diameter, if I can talk, of our module, that's going to give us the fit we want. In our next video, I'm going to install the bottom bracket.